Hey everybody, it's Jamie from No Getting Off This Train, and in today's video I have 3 different soup ideas using ingredients from Dollar Tree. As always, please read that blog post down there in the description before you leave a comment asking any questions about the health factors and the cost efficiency. I answer all the questions in that post. I don't know about you, but at least here in Ohio, the weather is starting to get warmer for spring, and I am so excited. So this video may not be relevant for a few of you in the warmer weather, but still, soups, I just love soup. I think it's a good idea almost all year round. Maybe not in the summer, but definitely fall, winter, and then sometimes in the spring as well, because it can still be a little cold. And soups can be really healthy for you too, because you can throw a bunch of vegetables in those suckers and not even think about it. You can make a huge bowl of soup for very little calories, and they're just delicious. Today I have 3 soup ideas for you. I've got a cheesy potato soup, I have a taco soup, and I also have a vegetable soup. I did have to pivot a little bit with some of these soups, as you'll see here in a little bit. But first, let me go ahead and take you to the cart, show you all the items that I bought and my reasoning behind it. So here is my thinking on all of these soups. I tried to buy as many different ingredients as possible because like the taco soup and the vegetable soup could have been almost the same. But for this taco soup, I bought a can of black beans, a can of pinto beans, a can of chicken, a jar of salsa, and a can of corn. I figured the 2 cans of beans would make a really good taco soup. And these are the bigger cans too. These ones are 19 ounces instead of like the 15 ounces you normally get. And I wanted to buy the canned potatoes, but this Dollar Tree did not have them. But I did find these Hungry Jack boxes. These are dried hash browns. Never made them before, so I figured I would give them a try and see if they actually work in potato soup. I know frozen works just fine. But I also bought a can of carrots, chicken broth, and cheddar cheese, a real block, to go in it. Then for my vegetable soup, I really wasn't sure what to do about this. I looked at other recipes. I ended up buying a can of carrots, a can of diced tomatoes, a jar of mushrooms, a bag of frozen pepper and onion blend, and then I wanted Great Northern beans, but they didn't have any. I bought a can of chickpeas, which I ended up not using. I swapped it out for something else, as you'll see later. So hopefully these will turn out really good. Now let's go ahead and get into the first recipes. Now, I wanted to buy a box or a bag of that cornbread muffin mix. You've seen me buy it before in other videos. They didn't have any this time, so I had to improvise and make my own cornbread muffins. Now, obviously, you don't have to make these for yourself, or if your Dollar Tree happens to have a box of the Jiffy mix, then do that. But I made my own cornbread. I figured it would be okay. I've got the recipe linked below if you want to check it out for yourself. But I like this recipe because it doesn't use a whole lot of ingredients. It's fairly good for you, and it's really cheap to make. And I love turning them into cornbread muffins as opposed to regular cornbread, because then you can just like pull it out of the muffin tin and there's your portion right there. It's super easy. You can cut it in half and put like butter or honey or something on it. But this recipe made 12 muffins. I just baked them in the oven for a few minutes, and then they were ready to go for the soups. While that was baking, I worked on the vegetable soup. So instead of the chickpeas, I actually added a can of pinto beans. I figured just black beans would be okay in the taco soup. But I added the beans, the diced tomatoes, and then the can of drained and rinsed carrots. And then I drained the jar of mushrooms and added that in there as well. And I think I added like 5 cups of water and then half the bag of peppers and onions. That was a huge bag. And then I realized, of course, I didn't grab a big enough pot. I do this all the time. But then I added some of my own salt, pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, basil, and oregano. I've got all of the ingredients I used down below in the description. But all I did was let that simmer for about 20 minutes or so, and then this soup was done. Each of these soup recipes will serve 4, so I divided them out into their bowls, and you can have like 1 or 2 cornbread muffins to go with it. You can add some butter, you could add some honey. So this was the first soup. It actually turned out pretty good. There's a good variety of vegetables in it, and I wasn't sure if they would all go together, but they really did. It was actually pretty good. The next one I made was the potato soup. I emptied out the entire can of chicken broth. I don't know why I only bought chicken broth for this one, but I guess I figured it would make this soup taste better. Then I took that can of carrots and drained it, and then I chopped them up smaller because those sliced carrots were actually pretty big. And then I added my own garlic powder and onion powder, and then pepper. I did not add any salt because I knew that this chicken broth was a little bit saltier. Then I grated that entire block of cheese, and then I set it aside for later. I was letting that pot of the chicken broth and carrots come to a boil first. Now, to be honest with you, I wasn't quite sure what to do with the hash browns. The box said to just pour some boiling or hot water in it and close it up, let it sit for like 12 minutes. I didn't want to add it directly to the soup because I wasn't sure if it would get mushy, I guess. So I cooked those according to the instructions and I let them sit in there while the soup boiled. Like I said, I wish they had the frozen hash browns, but it worked. I mean, that's what it looks like on the inside. It's basically like what the frozen hash browns would look like when they're thawed. So I added both boxes to it. I let it simmer for maybe a couple more minutes. But then after that, I added the cheese a little bit at a time. And one thing I noticed about this cheese is that even though this is real cheese, it just doesn't melt very well. I'm not sure what it is, but once I added all the cheese into it, it started to stick to the spoon. So I don't know. I'm just glad I used the real cheese. But honestly, I was surprised at how good this soup was. There you can see the cheese like sticking to the spoon. But yes, this was actually really salty due to the chicken broth. If you buy that chicken broth, just be careful because there's a ton of sodium in it. Just don't add any extra salt. But I was quite surprised at how good this turned out. It was nice and cheesy. The hash browns cooked beautifully in those boxes. I would probably actually buy them again, maybe even make actual hash browns out of it, like on the stove or something. But yes, this was, I think, my favorite soup of the three. And then we are making the taco soup. As you can see, I kind of pivoted a little bit. I don't have the pinto beans, so I'm just using the black beans. I'm also using the other half of the bag of the pepper and onion stir fry mix. So I drained and rinsed the black beans and added them to the pot, as well as the drained can of corn and the chicken. Somebody asked me before if that chicken is actually cooked. Yes, it is cooked. I don't know why it looks that color, but yes, it is fully cooked. I also added the peppers and onions and the entire jar of salsa, and I added, I think, 5 cups of water to this. And then I added my own seasonings, cumin, chili powder, salt, pepper, I think even some garlic powder, I think. I've got the ingredients list down below, so you can all check that out too. But it was just as simple as that. It was just letting it come to a boil and letting it cook for a few minutes. If you wanted to make this vegan, you could just take out the can of chicken and you could add the can of pinto beans or extra black beans. That's the beauty of soups, is that you can just add whatever you want to it and you really can't mess up soup. Once again, this one served 4 as well. It made huge servings, probably due to all the water I added into it. But you could add some shredded cheese on top if you wanted, or some sour cream. I chose to add to serve it on the side with my cornbread muffins with butter. And this one was pretty good. I think this potato soup was better. But that is it. I may have had a few hiccups here with these soups, but overall, I think they were okay. And to be honest with you, I was really surprised about how good the cheesy potato soup turned out, even though that cheese does not melt very well. I don't recommend buying the actual shreds because it's not real cheese. I'm buying the block of real cheese instead. But yeah, no matter how much I use that cheese, it just never seems to melt. Anyway, if you have any other ideas for Dollar Tree meals, please leave a comment and let me know. I've got a breakfast video coming out in the next week, and I'm thinking about looking around for some low carb ideas because you all seem to really like those. Now, it's going to be kind of hard to do at Dollar Tree because low carb meals really revolve around lots of fresh vegetables, and Dollar Tree just doesn't have that here. But I will do my best to find any whole food, low carb items for you all. So, like I said, leave me a comment, let me know what you want to see, and I will deliver. In the meantime, if you have not subscribed to this YouTube channel yet, please do so. Like this video, ring that bell, and that way you'll be notified when that other video comes out, as well as my other grocery hauls, recipes, and meal planning tips. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you later.